Welcome to the Teachers to Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dean. This is the podcast where we tell you how you can grow your tech skills, whether you're starting from scratch or just want to go farther. You might be thinking about a new job, a whole new career, or just a new hobby. We'll have something for everyone, so keep listening. Welcome to episode 104 of the Teachers to Tech podcast. Today we're going to talk about the Arduino platform, and I'm pretty excited about that. By platform, I mean a combination of hardware and software, and if that seems like a lot to take on all at once, you'll be amazed at how simple they make it to learn. Now, the reason I like this so much is because it is accessible to the beginner. It's a great way to learn, and you're going to learn about some very important concepts along the way. Some of them are going to be about hardware and software and how they work together, but also about inputs and outputs and how you can use them. And you're going to be able to relate to some things around you and immediately understand more about how they work. Let me give you two items that are very important categories in tech. One is the Internet of Things. Now, you've possibly heard this term before. Let's take a real simple example or two that I have around my house. I have a garage door that I can open by hitting a button on an app on my phone. And if somebody else opens the garage door, the app on my phone will let me know that somebody has opened that garage door. I also have a little device in my house that checks the temperature and the humidity in my house and reports that out to me over the internet. So you have outputs like the garage door that you can send over the internet. You have inputs that you can receive and communicate into the internet there. That kind of gives you a feel for the Internet of Things. Now, the other thing that you can learn a little bit about by working with the Arduino platform is the automation that you see in companies around you that are building things. So if you think about an assembly line, you're going to get a very good idea of what I'm talking about. An assembly line may have conveyors, it may have other machines that machine parts, it may have robots that carry tools or carry parts during operations, and those can be run by controllers that work pretty much like what we're going to see with Arduinos. Again, we're working with some kind of processor that can receive inputs and send outputs and follow some kind of logic internal to the processor. To do that, we're going to learn how to work with several different things. And believe me, this is something you can learn very simply, very easily with some of the tools that I'm going to recommend to you. And I want to put a disclaimer, and remember, I don't sell any of this myself. I'm not making any money off of this. This is just stuff I know about that I have used personally, and that works. And by the way, it helps me get a job. So that should be encouraging to you if that's why you're here. So we're going to dive in and talk about the specifics of the Arduino platform, and then the specific ways I recommend that you go about learning it when we come back. All right, let's get a little bit more specific about what this Arduino platform is. First of all, this all originated with a group called the Arduino Project. They create the boards, they create the software, and additional items that we can talk about just a little bit, but we won't need to go too far into those for the beginner. But the boards consist of whatever processor, and then some memory, and of course the connections for inputs and outputs and power and programming as well. Now we are going to program these boards by using some software that the Arduino project provides free. You load it on your computer, and let's learn a little jargon here. It's called an IDE, an Integrated Development Environment. Used to be when you were going to write a program, you would write it in one piece of software, and then you might port that over and use a different piece of software to say, you know what this is that I have written here, but the computer can't understand this programming language. Please translate this into the code that a computer can understand, machine code. Well, with an integrated development environment, we could have that all done at once. Now, what's even nicer for us, it's a very easy window-based environment to use, and a lot of the programming that we might use with an Arduino project when we're beginning has been written for us. because we're probably going to work with projects that have been preset with some predefined supplies and equipment that we need. So what we are doing is purchasing the board that would be correct for our project. Don't worry, we're going to get to that. There's not a lot to sweat there. And we're getting a program together. We port that program very easily just using a USB connector and that Arduino software onto the board we're working with, into its memory. A little bit about memory here. We're going to write to the memory all at once through a process called flashing, where we tell that memory, you are now writable. Here's what programming you need to have, and then it stores that for us. Now, once we've done that, that board is independent and can run that program without being connected to the computer after that. We then use some kind of power supply that we can attach. It could be a battery, it could be a plug-in power supply to run that board, and it'll run our program. We also will want to have some kind of inputs and some kind of outputs. For most projects we'd use with an Arduino. For those purposes, we'll have some kind of a peripheral. It could be a switch or some kind of a dial. An output could be an LCD screen. It could be as simple as just an LED that we want to see light up because we're learning our first projects. Now, one of the easiest ways to get into this is to purchase something that the project offers called the Arduino Starter Kit. And the beauty of this is it's got a predefined set of projects in a booklet that shows you exactly how to hook up the pieces that come with the Arduino and how to get the programming into the Arduino. And by the way, the programs are already written for you. So you download the software into your computer, you attach the Arduino using a USB cable, which is supplied in the kit, and away you go. You've got a programmed Arduino, and you'll even have something called a breadboard, which is a board with connection points where you will mount the components that are supplied in the kit in certain positions so they're connected to each other. And then we wire back to our Arduino using some simple plug-in wires, and we've got a completed project. There are some really cool projects you can do, and as soon as you've used up all of those projects, you can find plenty of others on the internet. Now, the beauty of working with that breadboard is that you can leave things on there as long as you want, or you can change them around, you can experiment, and if you don't like the project or you're more interested in something else, you just pull everything back off the breadboard, put something else in. There are people that keep projects forever on a breadboard. Maybe they buy a second one and put that to the side with a new Arduino they add to it. There are people that transfer all of those parts over to a soldered board where they have a permanent circuit now. So you can tinker around as much as you want. And I better not hear about anybody saying, well, I bought the Arduino starter kit and I did those projects and I didn't know what to do next. There are plenty of projects out on the internet you can try out, and there are plenty of things that you should be experimenting with the kit itself, changing parts of the program to see what that does, for instance. There are some other items that you can add. There are sensors available, there are specialized switches and other parts, but beyond that, there are things called shields. And these shields can be added to a basic Arduino board and used to interconnect with various devices. This is what I mentioned a little earlier when I said we won't go too far into those, because you might want to wait and get to know Arduino a little bit more before you start trying to understand exactly what you need shields for. You'll have plenty to do when you get into the starter kit. And when we come back, I'll talk a little bit about how to start with your learning. I'm going to be very specific this time with your path, just to help ease things along for you. All right, we've come to the part of the podcast where I help you make a specific learning plan for whatever technology we've been talking about. Now, in this case, I'm going to give you a very clear path that I recommend. Sometimes I'll give you a whole set of resources and tell you to take your pick, but not today, and I will tell you why. On the face of it, you're dealing with a lot of different things at the same time. You're dealing with hardware, software, peripheral things. It can get confusing very quickly if you don't have a very good guide. So here's what I'm going to recommend. First, go to the Arduino project. That's arduino.cc. The spelling is, of course, in the title of this podcast, and it's going to be in the show notes. When you get there, at the top of the home page, you'll see a graphic that says, "What is Arduino?" Click on that, and a little explanation will open up. And that's going to be a good way of getting to know what the Arduino project has to say about Arduino. Look around the site if you want. There is a lot to see. But I want to warn you, don't get bogged down reading everything that is out there about what you're dealing with yet. And I'll tell you why. There's some very great education material out there, but it's written for people who know a little bit of computer science already. Now, if that's not you, you could get bogged down. You could say, hey, this isn't for me, or maybe I can't do this. And that's what we want to avoid because it's not true. You can do this. So after you've looked around a little bit, what you want to do, and this is going to be a little bit of an expenditure here, you want to click on the store link there at arduino.cc or go out to Amazon, doesn't matter which. But what you're looking for is the official, that's actually in the title, the official Arduino starter kit. And what you'll have in that kit is one of the Arduino boards called the Arduino Uno. You'll see on the Arduino website there are several different boards. Don't worry about the differences right now. Get to know what a board has on it, and then you'll be able to compare specs later. But the Arduino Uno is a good middle ground board that'll let you do a lot and learn as you go. So you'll have that in the kit. You'll also have a breadboard, like I mentioned before, where you'll be able to plug in components, and you'll have a set of components and some connecting wires, plus a book of projects. And that book is going to include instructions for how to get back out to the Arduino website, download that integrated development environment I told you about, and how to use sample code that you will get from the Arduino project. So you'll open the book, you'll be told what the components are that you have, you'll be able to plug those into specific spots in the breadboard, you'll be told exactly where to locate those, how to connect them back to the Arduino using simple plug-in wires. This is not soldering, this is just plug and play, literally. And then how to attach with the cable that comes with this kit, how to attach that Arduino to the USB on your computer, download a program, and then you're ready to run it on that Arduino. So you'll have controls that came with it for inputs, you'll have different outputs. For instance, there's a little LCD screen. So you'll actually have your Arduino able to put messages out to you on that screen. You'll be guided through all of that. Now, once you've gotten to know what it's like to work with an Arduino, what it's like to build different projects and experiment with loading up programs, and by the way, tinker with those programs, go in and make changes in the programs and see what you get. If you change the program and it doesn't work, you can always just reopen the original code and use that again. But after you've gotten used to this, then you might want to go back out to the Arduino project, because if you click on their Learn link, you're going to find that they have a series of projects for you to learn from out on their website. And there are plenty of other places to get good Arduino projects. As you know, I also recommend Instructables.com. One of the beautiful things about the Instructables website is their authors almost always give very clear explanations for everything they are doing, and very often they give you links to purchase every part that you will need for the project. So that would be a great place to go to get additional projects. I'll give you an example. I've got an exercise bike in my basement. Years ago, the computer on it conked out, and I needed something to add to it or I was going to scrap this thing. Couldn't find a computer that would replace that one that was made by the manufacturer. So I found a speedometer plan on our Instructables. I got an Arduino and I got one of those LCD screens I mentioned before, and I made my own speedometer, attached that to the exercise bike so I can kind of pace myself as I exercise. Just an example of what's out there. All right, so we're wrapping it up here. We've gotten to know what the hardware and software are that are involved with this. I want to emphasize again to you that you can learn this, and just by doing these projects, you'll be surprised how much you learn about processing working with programs, working with peripherals, all in this one little kit. So check that out, chase it down, have fun with it, and let me know how you do. About next time, just want to let you know it's going to be another big change. I like changing the subjects drastically. That keeps them interesting. Next time, we're going to work on what I call the world's smallest web page. Doesn't mean that the screen is physically smaller. It just means we're going to start out by just putting about one word on a web page. And from there, we're going to learn the basics of what it takes to make a web page. And we're going to also learn just a little bit about putting programs or scripts on a web page. I intend to record a little tutorial video that you can watch, and I'll have a link to that in show notes for that. So look forward to that. You'll learn a lot of terminology quick, even if you don't follow along with the project later. But I recommend doing both because you're going to feel pretty slick when you make your first little web page that actually asks you a question on it. All right. That wraps it up for today. I just want to mention, just to thank you all for being here, I did put a box of donuts at the back of the room, so be sure and pick up one of those on your way out, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for listening. That's all we have for today. This is Dean saying thanks for listening, and we hope to have you back with us next time on Teachers to Tech.